My beloved child, a shaking is drawing near and it will not give notice. It will not knock on the door to ask permission to enter, but it will descend like lightning tearing through a clear sky. My child, open your eyes, open your ears, open your heart, for what I am about to speak can alter the destiny of your life. For generations, mankind has grown accustomed to repetition. The sun rises, the sun sets, one season follows another. They imagine that the flow of life will continue unshaken and unchanged. But I tell you, there will come a day when that flow is halted, and every familiar pattern is overturned. That day is no longer distant, it stands at the threshold. Just as people are startled awake by an alarm in the midnight hours, you will find that moment arrives when you least expect it. This is because I do not want you to slumber in false security, but to awaken, prepare, and stand firm. Do you think you still have plenty of time? Do you say to yourself, "That day is still far off, let me enjoy the present first"? I tell you truly, the enemy exploits that very thought to bind countless souls. It whispers, "There is no need to hurry. Tomorrow will do. Believe when you are old. Seek God when you have more time." Yet, child, you do not know what tomorrow will bring. You cannot guarantee another breath. Why then would you gamble your soul simply to delay? I call you today, this very hour, not tomorrow, not when it feels convenient. This is the moment to awaken. Look around you, my child. The signs are no longer vague. The foundations of society are trembling. Morality is being overturned. Truth is being distorted. People call darkness light and wrongness right. Nations are in turmoil. Creation groans. Hearts grow harder each day. Do you think these are merely ordinary disruptions? No. These are warnings. This is the alarm sounding. I am shaking all things to show you that a new era has begun. Do not deceive yourself with false security. The places you once thought unshakable will tremble. The things you assumed would endure will collapse. Yet I proclaim to you good news. In the midst of all this shaking, there is one foundation that can never be moved, and that foundation is me. If you cling to me, you will stand firm when everything else falls. But if you hold to what is dust, you will be swept away when the storm comes. This is not a threat, but the truth. Remember Noah, my child. When I warned of the flood, he built an ark on dry land while others mocked. They said he was mad. They claimed that day would never come. But when the waters began to rise and the door of the ark was shut, they realized, my word was true, but it was too late. Do you wish to be like them, or will you be like Noah, listening to my voice and preparing while there is still time? Do not wait until the door is shut to knock. Do not wait until darkness covers the earth to seek the light. You must decide now while the sun still shines. I call you to awaken, not to fill you with fear, but to save you. For my love for you is too great to remain silent while you walk toward the edge of the abyss. I speak to you not to burden, but to open your eyes. Perhaps you ask, how do I know this is truly the voice of God? My child, the stirring within your spirit even now is proof. The urging in your heart making it impossible to ignore these words. This is the sign that I am speaking. The enemy will try to make you doubt, saying, this is only human speech. But look at the fruit. If these words awaken you and draw you nearer to me, how could they come from darkness? It is I who am knocking at the door of your heart. Listen to me, child. This is not the time for idle amusement, not the time for slumber, not the time to drown in fleeting distractions. This is the moment to build up your faith, to prepare your heart, to cleanse your hands and refine your soul. You may choose to stand aside and pretend nothing is happening, but that will not change the truth. The shaking is coming. The only thing you can decide is how you will face it. I do not want you to tremble in fear, but neither do I want you to remain blind. This urgency is not meant to paralyze you. It is meant to release you from indifference. When you awaken, you will clearly see the snares the enemy has laid out. You will discern what is true and what is false. You will stand firm when others are shaken. And most importantly, you will be prepared to step into the greatness I have appointed for you. Remember this, my child, I have never left you alone. I do not call you to awaken and then abandon you to struggle on your own. I call you because I have already prepared the path. I call you because I desire to walk with you. But you must respond. You must open your heart. You must choose. Awakening is not only about awareness, but about action. What will you do after hearing this word? Will you dismiss it as a passing breeze, or will you engrave it upon your heart and walk in it? My beloved, pause and listen. Do not keep chasing the frantic rhythm of this world. This is the moment for you to stop, to breathe, and to recognize that my voice is sounding. I am calling you out of slumber, out of numbness, out of falsehood. I am calling you into true life, true light, and true purpose. Do you hear it? This is the bell of awakening. This is my word to you at this very hour. Do not delay. Do not turn away. For today is the day I have chosen to open your eyes. My child, the awakening you hear today is not foreign to history. From the beginning of creation, I have spoken to my people again and again, warning them before the storm broke forth. But take note, not every warning was welcomed, and not everyone recognized it as my voice. More often it was the watchful, the humble, the listening ones who grasped it, while the proud, those relying on power and their own wisdom, dismissed it, and thus they were swept away. My child, today I am doing the same with you, I warn, in order to prepare, not to sow fear, but to redeem and to preserve. Do you remember when I warned the people of Nineveh? I sent Jonah, a reluctant prophet, who even tried to flee from his mission. He was not a figure of respect in the eyes of men. His message was not eloquent, only a simple declaration. 40 more days and Nineveh will be overturned. It was not a fiery sermon, not a dazzling miracle. Yet in that simplicity a vast city trembled. From king to commoner, from the old to the young, from beast to man, all clothed themselves in sackcloth and fasted. Do you see? When I awaken hearts, no grandeur is required. What I seek is only a humbled spirit. The humility of a people overturned judgment, and Nineveh was spared. The lesson here, my child, is this: do not despise a warning simply because it does not come from where you expected. Do not reject it because the messenger does not match your imagination. At times I choose the weakest instruments to deliver the mightiest word. Even now I may speak through ordinary events, simple circumstances, or the faintest whisper within your soul. If you wait for a brilliant miracle, you may overlook the very bell of awakening ringing before your eyes. Remember the days of Jeremiah, my child. That prophet stood in Jerusalem crying until his voice was hoarse, warning of the sword and of the coming release to the enemy. But the people mocked him, the priests scolded him, the kings closed their ears. They preferred the false prophets who promised peace and prosperity rather than the bitter truth. And what came to pass? The holy city collapsed, the temple was burned, the people were carried into exile. Jeremiah sat weeping, yet his words had proven true. My child, the awakening today is the same. It may unsettle you, it may make you want to ignore it, but rejection does not erase the outcome. Better for you to hear the hard truth and be prepared than to lull yourself with sweet illusions and be swept away, and recall the time of Josiah, the young king. When the book of the law was found in the temple, the people were astonished, for they had never heard it read. Josiah's heart broke. He tore his garments in repentance, and that act of humility delayed judgment for an entire nation. My child, sometimes awakening does not come with thunder, but through a forgotten book, a word long neglected. Have you allowed the scriptures to gather dust upon your shelf? Are you living as though my word holds no weight? I tell you the truth. A great awakening may lie simply in opening that book again, reading it with a trembling heart, and allowing it to pierce into your very soul. Do not forget the days of Esther, my child. When a plot was forming to destroy the Jewish people, I used a young queen who was placed in the palace not because of beauty or luck, but for the very purpose I had determined. Mordecai said to her, "Who knows whether you have come to the royal position for such a time as this?" That was the awakening. A reminder that position, place, and circumstance are not random, but an arrangement for a specific moment. My child, I say the same to you. Where you are, the circumstances in which you live and the opportunities set before you all are serving a purpose. The awakening for you today is this: you are here not by accident, but because I have positioned you for a mission greater than yourself. Think also of the days of Ezekiel when I showed him a valley full of dry bones. It was not merely a picture of death, but an awakening that, my people had lost spiritual life. I asked him, "Can these bones live?" And when he spoke, according to my word, flesh came upon them, breath entered, and a mighty army arose. My child, the awakening today is the same. I do not only reveal danger, I also unveil hope. If you listen and speak according to my word, even the deadest places in your life can be revived. But if you turn away, the bones will remain dry, and darkness will continue to reign. Look also at the time of Daniel, my child. When Belshazzar held a feast and drank wine from the vessels taken from the temple, a hand appeared and wrote on the wall, "Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin." The whole palace trembled, and the king shook so violently that his knees knocked together. But that warning came too late, for that very night the kingdom fell. Do you see? There are warnings that come at the final hour, when no time remains to change course. That is the most grievous awakening, for it announces judgment without opening the door to repentance. My child, do not wait until the hand writes upon the wall of your life. Awake while there is still time, so you will not tremble in regret. And look at the disciples, my child. When my son Jesus spoke many times that he would be betrayed, suffer, die, and rise again, they did not understand or believe. Only when he hung upon the cross, when darkness covered the land, did they recall his words. Yet through the resurrection, what once sounded like a warning became a promise. My child, I say this to you as well. There are things you do not yet understand, but hold on to them, for when the day of fulfillment comes, you will see that all was because of love. My child, every warning in Scripture, from Nineveh's repentance, Jerusalem's hardness, Josiah's humility, Esther's courage, to Daniel witnessing the writing on the wall, shares one truth: I always speak beforehand. I never allow my people to walk into darkness without first shining a light. But what determines the outcome is not whether I speak, but whether you listen. So today, the awakening I speak to you carries the same essence and opportunity. You may choose, like Nineveh, to repent and be forgiven. You may choose, like Josiah, to humble yourself and delay judgment. You may choose, like Esther, to rise into the place of calling. Or you may choose, like Belshazzar, to scorn to keep feasting and to fall in a single night. The choice rests in your hands. But remember this: you cannot choose the consequence. You can only choose your response. I know your heart may waver. Perhaps you want to dismiss this just to feel at peace, or perhaps you want to shrink back in fear. But I speak truthfully. Do not be careless and do not be terrified. My ways are not your ways. My purpose is not to bring confusion, but to grant clarity. This is the hour for a new posture, clear in mind, steadfast in heart, and ready in action. Complacency is the silent enemy of faith. How many in Scripture fell simply because they thought they could not? Peter once declared, "Even if everyone falls away, I never will." Yet only hours later, he denied the Master 3 times. Complacency blinds, causing you to ignore your own frailty. You think yourself strong, but in that very moment you are weakest. My child, do not let self-assurance draw you into a snare. When I awaken you, it is not to make you reckless, but to bring you low in humility, that you may realize you need me every moment, every breath, every step. But I also declare this: do not panic. Panic is another kind of snare. It causes you to scatter, to lose direction, to cling to anything without discerning what is true and what is false. When Moses led Israel out of Egypt with the Red Sea before them and Pharaoh's army behind them, the people panicked and cried out, "It would have been better for us to serve as slaves than to die in the wilderness." Yet in that very moment I opened a path through the sea, something no one had ever imagined. My child, if you let fear take over, you will miss the extraordinary work I am about to do. Do not panic, but lift up your head, for my solutions often arise from directions you would never expect. So what is the right posture? My child, it is vigilance. To be vigilant is to discern between the true voice and the false one. It means not being swept away by popular opinion, not being lulled to sleep by sweet words, not being paralyzed by fear. Vigilance means keeping your mind clear, weighing everything against my word, and being ready to adjust when I speak. The vigilant do not live by fleeting emotions, but by the deep awareness that I remain sovereign. Vigilance also means preparation. No one builds a house in the middle of a storm, but the wise lay their foundation before the rain and winds arrive. Spiritual preparation means you nurture a life of prayer, soak yourself in my word, and stay connected with the community of faith. Do not wait for calamity before you seek me, for by then you will struggle to distinguish truth from deception. Let today be the day you train your soul as a soldier trains before the hour of battle. Preparation is not the act of panic, but the fruit of faith. My child, understand this: spiritual preparation is very different from hoarding and fear. Hoarding is the fruit of anxiety, but preparation is the fruit of faith. When I instructed the Israelites to eat unleavened bread and keep their belts fastened on the night of the Passover, it was not because I wanted them to panic, but because I wanted them to be ready to depart at a moment's notice. In the same way today, I also call you to prepare, not to flee, but to step into what I have ordained. Consider the lamps of the 10 virgins in the parable. 5 were wise and carried oil in reserve, while 5 were foolish and did not. When the wedding doors were opened, only those who were prepared entered in. My child, I do not want you left outside simply because you lacked vigilance. This is the time for you to examine your lamp. Is there oil in your vessel? Does your faith burn brightly, or does it merely flicker? Preparation also means true repentance. Nothing is more secure than a humble heart returning to me. Many think preparation means storing up, calculating, or building defenses. But what I seek first is not full barns, but a broken spirit, a genuine prayer, a tear of repentance, a decision to return. These are the beginnings of the greatest preparation of all. And finally, preparation means living each day in the light of my presence. Do not think preparation is only for a future event. True preparation is how you live today, choosing love instead of hatred, forgiveness instead of bitterness, faithfulness in the little things. For when you live this way, you are building a foundation no storm can overthrow. My child, I am not calling you to run away. I am calling you to stand firm. I am not calling you to tremble in the dark. I am calling you to lift your lamp high. Do not be complacent, for the enemy is always lurking. Do not panic, for I am still seated on the throne. Be vigilant, be prepared, and walk with confidence, knowing that I go before you, stand beside you, and guard behind you. So what will you choose today? Will you continue to sleep, or will you awaken? Will you let fear paralyze you, or will you let faith guide your steps? Will you ignore the warning, or will you step into preparation? My child, do not delay. Even now, let your heart respond. Lord, here I am. Prepare me, teach me vigilance, keep me faithful. I want you to understand this. Clearly, trials are not a sign that I have abandoned you or that I am punishing you. That mistaken belief has led many to live under guilt, fear, and doubt of my love. Every time hardship comes, they rush to ask, is God angry with me? What did I do wrong to deserve this? But I speak truth. The purpose of trials is not to crush you, but to refine you. It is like gold in the furnace. When raw gold is placed in the fire, no one calls it destruction. It is the necessary process to remove impurities, so that the true treasure is revealed. In the same way, trials separate what is genuine from what is false, what is lasting from what is fleeting. Look at the everyday life around you. If a bridge is only painted on the outside but never tested under load, those who walk upon it are in danger. When a storm comes, a weak bridge collapses, and only then is it revealed which structures were built according to true standards and which were nothing but outward deception. The trials in your life are that very kind of load test. They are not meant to bring you down, but to reveal the truth upon what foundation is your faith placed. If faith rests only on fleeting emotions, trials will expose it. But if faith is truly placed in me, you will stand firm even when the storms arrive. What matters most is that you change your perspective. The world defines success as avoiding hardship and keeping everything smooth. But in my eyes, success is when you pass through fire without being burned, and when you cross the waters without sinking, because then you prove that your faith does not depend on circumstances. A life that has never faced trials may look beautiful on the outside, but it lacks depth. Like a diamond that has never been cut, it cannot reflect the light. Trials are the chiseling process through which your life reflects true glory. My child, you must also know that trials are the means by which you are separated from illusions you unknowingly cling to. When you have never lacked, it is easy to believe that your job, your wealth, or your relationships are your source of security. But when those things are taken away, only then do you realize who your true provider island. When everything collapses, only then do you see clearly what cannot be shaken. Therefore, trials are never meaningless. They expose what holds true value and what is merely a false shell you have leaned upon. Notice this: in a forest, it is only when strong winds blow that one can tell which trees have deep roots and which cling only to shallow soil. So it is in the spiritual life. You may stand among the congregation, sing praises loudly, and speak pious words. But when the storm comes, that is when it is revealed how deep your roots truly go. This is not meant to shame you, but it is a necessary truth. For if the roots lie only on the surface, the wind will topple you, and I do not want you to fall on the final day. It is far better that the truth be revealed now, while there is still time to drive your roots deeper. Trials also serve to purify motives. Many times you pursue me, yet mixed within are desires for recognition, expectations of earthly rewards, or ambitions to outshine others. Trials are like a sieve that separates grain. Empty husks are cast aside, solid kernels remain. When hardship comes, false motives fall away, leaving only a heart that truly longs for me. That is how I refine your worship, making it pure and untainted. Do not think, my child, that I delight in seeing you suffer. A goldsmith never laughs when the fire burns hot. He only watches closely to know when the gold has been purified. Likewise, I take no pleasure in your pain. My eyes are on the outcome, a steadfast faith and a matured soul. Trials are not the evidence of wrath, but proof that I deem you worthy to be refined. Do you waste time refining what is worthless number? The craftsman only works upon what is precious. You go through the fire because you are precious in my sight. And my child, remember this: trials do not last forever. Winter endures only for a season, and then spring comes. The flame in the furnace does not burn endlessly. It stops when the work is done. The question is not whether the fire is present, but what purpose it serves. If you see trials as evidence of abandonment, bitterness will grow. But if you understand that they are part of the refining process, you will endure with patience and find hope even in the fire. I want you to change the question you ask. Do not say, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, ask, "Lord, what do you want to reveal through this trial?" When you ask the right question, the door will open. Trials will no longer be an abyss, but a classroom. They teach what no book can teach, what no sermon can convey. They teach you patience, they teach you trust, they teach you to discern true value from false. My child, engrave this upon your heart. Trials are not meant to destroy, but to refine. They expose the truth, strip away deception, deepen the roots of faith, and purify motives. They are not a sign of abandonment, but proof of loving care. And if you see with spiritual eyes, you will realize that through trials you are being prepared for something greater. For no gold is ever set in a crown that has not first passed through fire. No instrument is ever used in my work without first being forged in the furnace. My child, I want you to look beyond the pain before your eyes. Trials are not merely temporary seasons. They are a process designed to shape your very identity. A true identity is never formed by ease, but through collisions with adversity. Just as muscles only grow when placed under pressure, so your soul matures when it is stretched and tested. If every door were open and nothing ever resisted you, faith would never take root. It is resistance, pressure, and opposition that forge your identity into something steadfast. Think of the ancient tree standing in the middle of a field. It remains firm, not because it has avoided the wind, but because it has endured thousands of storms through the years. The winds did not destroy it. Rather, they drove its roots deeper, made its trunk stronger, and spread its branches wider. The refining fire in your life works in the same way. Each trial is not meant to topple you, but to form within you a strength that nothing can shake. You will become one with roots that go deep, unshaken by bad news, unmoved by public opinion, unbroken when the world trembles. A strong identity is not about appearing tough on the outside, but about inner steadfastness. Others may see weakness in you, but it is in weakness that you learn to lean on me. And when you lean on me, you discover a source of strength you could never produce on your own. This is the difference between someone merely enduring through willpower and someone being remade by my presence. The first may collapse when their strength runs out, but the second will keep standing, for their strength flows from a source that never runs dry. My child, refinement also prepares you for a life that can withstand the storms. Such a life is not promised to be free from tempests, but it is promised that you will not be overwhelmed. When the waves crash, you will not panic. When the fire of trial blazes, you will not be consumed. When the ground shakes, you will remain standing. This is not because circumstances have grown lighter, but because your foundation has grown stronger. This is the outcome of refinement, an inner stability amid chaos, a faith unbroken even as the world shifts around you. Remember, my child, I did not create you to be as fragile as dry grass set aflame. I created you to be a living witness of my enduring strength. And how could that be proven unless you have been tested? How could anyone trust the strength of a bridge if it has never borne weight? Likewise, how could anyone trust the strength of faith if it has never faced trial? It is when you walk through what others deem unbearable that you become a living testimony of a power greater than man, the power that comes from me. A strong identity also means knowing who you truly are in me. Trials will strip away false layers, fame, success, position. They peel back until you stand before the mirror and see clearly, not a child of achievement, but a child of God. When every outward title has fallen, your true identity shines forth. And when you grasp firmly who you are in me, you will no longer be swayed by praise or criticism, by the approval or rejection of the world. This is the unshakable identity toward which refinement is leading you. My child, I do not promise you will never face trials. But I do promise that trials are never meaningless. They prepare you for a purpose greater than you can imagine. They transform you from one easily swayed into one who stands firm. They turn you from a person living by comfort into a person living by unshakable faith. They shape in you a heart that discerns what truly matters from what is fleeting. And once you have walked through this process, you will become a refuge for others, like the ancient tree that casts shade for the weary beneath the summer Sunday. Do not despise this process, my child. Refinement is not random, but part of the design I have set for those I love. You may feel you are losing, but in truth you are being built. You may think things are being taken from you, but in reality you are being given more. Every trial, whether small or great, serves one purpose: to make you new with an identity unshakable and a life that cannot be swept away. Therefore, my child, do not fear the refining process. Embrace it as an opportunity to grow. Allow it to deepen the roots of your faith, strengthen your heart, and train you in endurance. For when the season of storms arrives, when the world is shaken, you will no longer tremble as before. You will stand not by your own strength, but by the power of an identity forged in the fire. And this is the true purpose of refinement: to prepare you for a life that is not swept away, but one that stands firm to shine as a light for others in the night. My child, I want you to know something that many often overlook. Nothing in your life is wasted or redundant. You were not created like a mass-produced item on an impersonal assembly line. You are not the random outcome of biological events, nor merely the product of careless choices made by others. Every strand of hair, every breath you take, every step you walk is recorded by me and woven into a design far greater than you can imagine. When you think you are just a small individual among 7 billion people, I want you to remember, in my eyes, you are irreplaceable. My child, I do not measure your worth only by your success. I look at the entire journey. People praise the destination, but I value every step along the way. A long journey is not only about the finish line, but about every stage along the path. If you stumble in the middle, I do not strike your name off my plan. I use even that fall to teach you lessons you could not learn otherwise. You may condemn yourself for straying, but I see even your mistakes as part of the refining process. I am never surprised by your failures, for I have already accounted for how to turn them into opportunities for you to rise stronger. Many believe that My plan is like a straight road. Take one wrong step, and you are lost forever. But my child, I want you to know the truth. My plan is like a vast network with many paths, where even wrong turns can be redirected into the way that leads to the goal. Nothing lies beyond my ability to use for my purpose. I do not create evil, but I know how to turn it into good. What you see as wasted detours, I can turn into shortcuts that build your faith. What you see as permanent failure, I can use as raw material for blessing. My child, have you ever stopped to consider that the very place you were born, the family you came from, the time in history, even the city where you live, none of these were accidents. I placed you there not because you were lucky or unfortunate, but because you have a unique role in that setting. If I wished, I could have caused you to be born in another country, in a different culture. But I chose this place this time because it is the stage on which my plan through your life is meant to unfold. You are not merely existing, you have been positioned. Many envy the circumstances of others, thinking they are disadvantaged because of a lowly beginning, or on the contrary, believing themselves more favored. But my child, you need not compare. My plan is not built on comparison, but on uniqueness. One instrument does not envy another. The violin does not sound like the trumpet, yet both are essential in a symphony. In the same way, you do not need to become someone else. You only need to stand in your place and release the sound I have given you. Only then will the orchestra be complete. My child, have you ever wondered why I allow even the smallest details to occur? A chance encounter, an unexpected event, a passing remark, all of these can become turning points. For I do not only act through supernatural wonders, but also through the most ordinary of things. Every detail matters. Nothing is by accident. What you think is simply arriving at the right place at the right time by coincidence I arranged long before. What you think is a sudden twist of fate brought on by a small choice I already knew and wove into my design. I want you to let go of the thought that your life only has meaning if you achieve something grand. No, my child. Meaning is already present in every step you take. When you are faithful in small tasks, when you show kindness in hidden acts, when you pray for someone in secret, I remember it all. It is precisely those details, seemingly insignificant, that shape your identity and confirm that you are walking in my plan. A great plan is not only found in the final outcome, but in the thousands of small, ordinary details that together form the whole. And my child, I want you to understand that my plan is never broken by external forces. Others may harm you, circumstances may press upon you, but nothing can prevent what I have ordained. Remember Joseph, his brothers sold him. He was falsely accused, he was thrown into prison. Every detail seemed like a mistake. Yet it was precisely those details that came together to place him in the position to save an entire nation. I work in the same way in your life. My plan does not depend on everything going smoothly. It depends on my power to turn all things together for good. My child, cast aside the thought that you are walking through a random journey. You are living within a script of which I am both the author and the director. Yet you are not a forced actor on a stage. You are a collaborator, one who is invited to participate. You have the freedom to choose how to respond, but whatever you choose, I still weave it into the larger plan. You cannot destroy the whole design, for I am the architect who stands above all variables. What you need is to trust and to walk forward, not in confusion, but with the assurance that every detail carries value. From today onward, my child, change the way you view yourself. Do not call yourself an accident. Do not see the details of your life as meaningless. Believe that every experience, whether joy or sorrow, whether height or depth, is being used by me to shape a unique story. And when that story is told in its fullness, every detail that once puzzled you will become clear, and you will see it was all intentional. I want you to know a truth beyond ordinary thought. You are not merely part of a greater plan, but you were marked for a distinct purpose before the world began. When the universe was not yet formed, when the sun had not yet shone, when the first breath of humanity had not yet been drawn, I already knew you. You had no form yet in my thoughts. You already had a place. You had not yet entered history yet. Your name was etched into my eternal memory. Therefore, you did not simply appear in time, you were sent. You are not coincidence. You are a mission given form. People often look at their birthday to define their beginning. But in my eyes, your beginning was not the day you were born, but the moment I chose to call your name in my eternal plan. You are like a seed chosen in advance, planted in the soil at the right season and in the right place. When you appeared on earth, that was only the moment the seed began to sprout in the realm of the visible. But truly, your journey had already begun long before in my unchanging intent. My child, to be set apart does not mean you are taken out of this world to live in isolation. It means that in the chaotic flow of humanity, I have placed my mark upon you so that you do not dissolve into the common mass but carry a distinct character. Like in a long code sequence, even a single character changed shifts the entire system. You are that character I placed in its exact spot for the program to run according to my will. No one can replace you in that position. If you refuse, I will still fulfill my plan, but you will miss the deeper reason for which you were born. What causes many to wander is their belief that being set apart is only for those deemed special by the world prophets, leaders, preachers, or great figures. But my child, I tell you, truly being set apart is not based on public prominence, but on the purpose I assign. A mother quietly raising her children in reverence for me can be just as set apart as a prophet proclaiming in public. A laborer in a workshop, faithful and upright, may be living out a mission no one else could replace. Value is not found in outward greatness, but in precision within. My purpose. My child, to be set apart means that your life has been designed to be different in some way. You may have felt that you do not fully blend in with the crowd, that you cannot completely fit in. You might have thought this was a flaw, but in truth, it is the mark of being set apart. I did not create you to disappear into the masses, but to carry a distinct voice, a unique perspective, and a singular impact. Do not see your difference as a burden. See it as evidence that you have been chosen for something entrusted to no one else. Consider a key, my child. It has strange grooves and ridges, odd cuts that seem meaningless at first glance. Yet it is those very unique details that allow it to open a specific door. Without the grooves, it would only be a useless piece of metal. So it is with you, those parts of you that seem unusual, those different experiences, those distinctive marks. All of them are cuts I have engraved so that you might unlock a door no one else can. You were set apart not to keep hidden, but to open the way. To be set apart also carries responsibility. You cannot live carelessly as though your life has no meaning. When a soldier is chosen for a special mission, he cannot afford laziness or apathy. He knows that every step of his preparation will determine the outcome for his entire unit. So it is with you. If you treat lightly the fact of being set apart, you will waste the abilities, the opportunities, and the time I have given you. But if you are mindful, you will live awake, careful and focused, knowing that your life is bound to something greater than yourself. My child, I want you to abandon the destructive habit of comparison. One who is set apart does not need to run in the race marked by others. You do not need to succeed like them nor resemble them. You need only be faithful in the path entrusted to you. Just as the parts of a body are not to be compared, an eye cannot measure itself against a hand, nor a hand envy the foot. So too must you remember that each member is set apart to fulfill a function, and the body thrives only when each part works in its role. If you live in jealousy or inferiority, you are forgetting that it is precisely your difference that carries your value. You may not yet see clearly the purpose for which you have been set apart. But my child, the present obscurity does not erase eternal truth. A child does not understand why he must learn each letter or practice simple arithmetic, but when he matures, he realizes that every small lesson prepared him for a greater purpose. So it is with you. You may not yet understand why I lead you through winding roads, why you endure certain trials, but one day you will look back and see that every detail was a step of preparation for your appointed mission. From the moment you opened your eyes to this world, society has been placing labels on you. Family told you one thing, school told you another, and society tied your worth to measures of success or failure. If you earned high marks, you were called intelligent. If you stumbled, you were branded weak. With wealth, you received respect. With nothing, you were despised. But my child, all those labels are only temporary. Your true identity cannot be defined by outward success or failure. It is determined by one thing alone, what I declare you to be. The world always seeks to measure value by visible results. It asks what you have achieved, what you own, or what position you hold. But I do not look at outward success or failure. I look at the root of who you are, the deepest part of your soul. If your worth is tied only to success, then when you fall, you will lose everything. If your identity is built upon failure, then you will live forever in shame. But if your identity is anchored in what I declare, it will stand unshaken in every circumstance. For my word does not change. Think of a banknote. When it is freshly printed, crisp and clean, people treat it with care. When it is wrinkled or torn, they may scorn it. Yet its true value remains unchanged, for the number printed on it has not altered. So it is with you. Success may make you shine for a time, and failure may leave you battered, but in my eyes, your value has never diminished. For I am the one who inscribed that worth upon you before time itself began. My child, do not let the voice of failure define your identity. When Peter denied me 3 times, he could have carried the label of betrayer. Yet I came to him and declared that he was the rock upon which I would build my church. My word was greater than his mistake. He became a witness not because he was flawless, but because I redefined his identity by my word. In the same way, your failures are not your final name. If you allow me to speak, I will declare something different, and that word will hold the true authority. Do not let success become the source of your identity either. When someone believes their worth is measured only by what they achieve, they become enslaved to outcomes. They fear failure, fear pausing, fear admitting weakness. But my child, success is not a secure foundation. It is like a castle built on sand, easily swept away by one wave. Only my word is the rock that cannot be shaken. Therefore ask yourself, if one day you were to lose everything, would you still know who you are? If your answer is no, then your identity has been placed in the wrong place. My child, what I declare about you is the only enduring truth. I say that you are wonderfully made, carefully knit together in your mother's womb. I say that you are loved, redeemed at a great price, not with perishable silver or gold, but with the blood of my Son. I say that you are called, predestined to be a witness to the light. These are not vague promises. They are the foundation of your true identity. When you live from that identity, you will no longer be swayed by shifting circumstances. People may praise you, but you know it does not raise your worth. People may criticize you, but you know it does not diminish your value. You may succeed and you will give glory to me. You may fail, and still you will know you belong to me. This stability does not come from your own willpower, but from trusting in what I have spoken. I know, my child, that society teaches you to tie your identity to your career, your title, or your role. When people ask, "Who are you?" the common answer is, "This is what I do." But that is not your true essence. Careers can change positions, can be lost, and roles can be passed to another. Yet the identity I declare never changes. When you grow old, when strength fades, when work is gone, my word still stands. You are loved, you are chosen, you are mine. What matters most is that you learn to hear my voice above all others. Failure will shout that you are worthless. Success will whisper that you cannot stop. But I declare that you were made to know me and to walk in my purpose. When you choose to believe my word, every other voice loses its power over you. My child, do not waste your life chasing after proof of your worth. You do not need to prove what I have already confirmed. My seal upon you is enough. The question is whether you believe it. If you do, you will walk in freedom. If you do not, you will live like a beggar seeking approval while holding an inheritance in your hands. Therefore, my child, stop allowing success or failure to define you. They are only circumstances, not identity. Stand upon my word and you will find the stability the world cannot provide. Your true identity cannot be bought, cannot be lost, and cannot be stolen. It can only be lived out when you believe that what I have spoken is the absolute truth. I want you to understand clearly, prayer is not a casual option, but the very foundation of spiritual life. Just as air is essential to the body, prayer is essential to the soul. You may try holding your breath for a few minutes, and soon you will feel your body pressing, panicking, and forcing you to inhale. In the same way, a soul that ceases to pray slowly suffocates, dries up, and eventually loses its vitality. Many do not realize this because outwardly they continue their daily routines, yet inwardly they have withered from the lack of connection with me. Prayer is the breath of the Spirit because it sustains continuous fellowship between you and me. It is not limited to long petitions in a gathering or ritual, but is a daily rhythm as natural as inhaling and exhaling. While you work, while you travel, while you face pressure, you can whisper to me. No formality is required, no ceremonial preparation, only sincerity. I do not wait for you to reach a special place before I listen. I am present in every moment, and each time you turn your heart toward me, it becomes a fresh breath for your soul. My child, examine your own life. When you are overwhelmed with work, you often take a pause, drink a sip of water, or breathe deeply to regain composure. The spiritual life likewise needs such breathing spaces. Prayer allows you to stop the spinning wheel, to realign your focus, and to regain strength. It is not because I forget what you need, but because you need to be reminded that I am the true source of provision. A mind unfed by prayer is quickly taken over by worry, comparison, and fear. Prayer clears the air within like a breeze, sweeping away suffocating dust. You must understand, prayer is not merely the exchange of information. I already know every need before you speak. Prayer is connection. It is the way you open the door for me to step into your reality. It is like plugging a device into its power source. However sophisticated the device may be, without connection to the current, it remains a lifeless shell. You may have intelligence, skills, and experience, but if cut off from the source, your soul will dry up. Prayer is the cord that connects you to my inexhaustible power. My child, many treat prayer as a last resort. They live by their own strength and only turn back to ask when they fail or reach a dead end. That is like a person who chooses to breathe only when he is about to suffocate. But prayer is not for emergencies. It is the unbroken breath of life. You cannot say, I breathed yesterday, I don't need to today. Neither can you say, I prayed last month, that is enough. Every day, every hour, your soul requires that connection, or else it withers without your notice. At times you think prayer must be long, eloquent, or carefully presented. But my child, I do not count words, I hear the heart. A short cry of save me in the moment of crisis may move heaven more powerfully than ornate, lifeless phrases. Do not let complexity frighten you. I do not seek a speech, I seek truth within. Just as a child who falls does not need to form complete sentences, but only cries, Father and I come running. My child, prayer is not monologue, it is dialogue. Many only speak, then close and walk away, leaving no space for my reply. Have you ever inhaled without exhaling? Breath always flows both ways. So it is with prayer. You speak, but you must also listen. Silence in prayer is not emptiness, but opportunity to hear my voice. If you only talk without listening, prayer becomes a dry monologue. But when you pause in stillness, I whisper, correct, encourage, and guide. Prayer joins heaven and earth not as fantasy, but in the most practical sense. When you pray, you bring your actual circumstances, your work, family, sickness, decisions into my realm. The most ordinary things, such as a meal, a journey, or a conversation, when wrapped in prayer, become covered by my presence. Thus, heaven no longer feels distant, but touches earth through your very life. And likewise, humanity is no longer cut off from eternity, for prayer draws heaven's atmosphere into your daily living. You may ask, why does the Almighty need me to pray before acting, my child? It is not because I lack power, but because I honor your will. I will not force your door open. Prayer is the act of allowing me to intervene, not because I am limited, but because I respect the gift of freedom I have given you. When you pray, you sign an agreement that says, Lord, act in this situation, and I ever willing step in. My child, do not underestimate the power of this spiritual breath. It may seem hidden, but it sustains your soul. If a person stops breathing, death does not come instantly, yet cell by cell begins to die. So it is with prayer. Neglect may not show its consequence at once, but gradually faith weakens, joy fades, hope dissolves. Then one day you awaken to find yourself an empty shell. Do not wait until regret overwhelms you. Learn to breathe each day. Learn to pray as the very rhythm of life. So then, my child, today begin simply. Do not search for complicated formulas. Speak honestly with me about your fears, your dreams, your wounds. Take a few minutes to silence the noise and just listen. Let prayer become as natural to you as breathing. When you do this, you will realize that heaven's atmosphere is no longer distant, but is flooding into every detail of your life. And through this, your soul will be strengthened, resilient, and full of life. Prayer is not merely the act of talking with me. It is the bridge between heaven and earth, a place where you are not a spectator standing outside, but where you actually step into my work. When you pray, you are not merely presenting needs. You are partnering so that my will may be done. It is cooperation where I reveal my power and you participate by trusting. Many believe that I will act whether they pray or not. But my child, I did not create you to be a passive audience. I gave you free will, and it is that freedom which makes prayer valuable. I want you to enter the conversation not only to witness the result, but to become part of how that result is brought forth. You may ask, why would the Almighty want me to contribute? Because I do not seek machines. I seek children who will cooperate. My will is certain to be fulfilled, yet I choose to let it flow through your prayers so that you may recognize your importance in that plan. Consider the reality: an engineer may hold a flawless design for a building, yet it still requires workers to carry out each detail. Without them, the design remains only on paper. So it is with my plan for the world. It is perfect, unchanging, yet it comes to full expression through people who agree to carry it out in prayer and action. Prayer is that moment when you say, I want to cooperate, use me. And from there, my will moves from the eternal blueprint into earthly reality. My child, do not think prayer only changes you. It truly transforms the environment around you. When you pray for the sick, you open the door for healing power to flow. When you pray for your family, you allow my protection and peace to cover them. When you pray for a city, you clear the way for light to pierce the darkness. No prayer is wasted. Even the smallest whispers stir movement in the unseen realm. There are things I could accomplish instantly, yet I wait for prayer. Not because I lack power, but because I want you to share the joy of working together. If I did everything without you, you would never know your own worth. But when you pray and then see results, you realize you have taken part in something beyond yourself. You understand that you are not insignificant, but a bearer of my glory where you stand. Remember what has been recorded. The Red Sea could have opened by itself, but I waited for Moses to lift his staff and cry out. The sun could have followed its course, but I halted it when Joshua prayed in the midst of battle. Fire could have fallen from heaven at any time, but it descended on Mount Carmel only when Elijah knelt and pleaded. These things were not staged to display my power, but to reveal that my will is accomplished through cooperation. One prays I act, and the earth trembles with heaven. My child, you must understand, when you pray, you are not an outsider waiting for a miracle. You are an agent through whom the miracle operates. I want to make you a channel, not a spectator. Many pray simply to feel relief, but I want them to see that prayer is also a sacred responsibility. It is like placing your hand on the steering wheel, guiding the vehicle in my direction. If you refuse, the vehicle still moves, but you miss the honor of driving alongside me. Do not underestimate this partnership. A quiet prayer in a small room can shake an entire city. A child's cry of faith can open rivers of blessing for a whole family. A small group praying faithfully can alter the destiny of a nation. For when people say, "Let your will be done," all of heaven stirs to carry it out. Therefore, prayer is not a final afterthought. It is the pioneering work. Before change takes place on earth, it is born in prayer. Nothing truly lasting begins without the agreement forged between you and me in prayer. My child, this is both your privilege and your responsibility. Do not neglect it. Do not treat it lightly. Enter the secret place, sit down and open your heart. When you pray, you are not merely speaking to me, you are allowing heaven to move into your circumstances. That is the true power. That is why the enemy does everything it can to steal away a life of prayer. It is not afraid of clever strategies nor of grand projects. It trembles before one person who knows how to pray. For it knows this: where prayer is found, there my will is accomplished. I want you to realize that prayer has never been just a private act hidden and confined within four walls. Time and again it has turned the course of history, and it still holds the power to do so today. Prayer is the starting point of changes no one could ever predict. It is like a small stone cast into a lake, creating ripples that spread outward, touching places no one imagined. Look back into Scripture where I revealed this clearly. When the Israelites were oppressed by Egypt, they cried out in anguish. Their cry did not only echo in the valley, it reached me. From that cry I sent Moses, and an entire nation was set free. One collective prayer shook the mightiest empire of its time. You see, the prayer did not stop in the slave camp. It rewrote the history of a people. Remember Joshua and the battle at Gibeon. When the enemy pressed close, Joshua prayed for the sun to stand still, and the impossible happened. Time stretched until victory was secured. This is not just an ancient tale. It is proof that prayer can touch even the natural order. A man spoke, heaven listened, and history turned in another direction. Consider the days of Elijah. He prayed for the rain to stop, and the land endured 3 years of drought. Then he prayed again, and the rain returned. One man prayed, yet the result touched the destiny of an entire nation. This is evidence that personal prayer carries a ripple effect. It can influence harvests, economies, and the fate of people. In the early church, when Peter was imprisoned, the community of believers prayed fervently. The result was chains falling off prison doors, swinging open, and Peter walking free. If they had only complained or debated, nothing would have changed. But because they prayed, the history of the church was preserved, and the message continued to spread. My child, these are not just old stories. I act the same way in every generation. Even in recent history, there have been moments where prayer shifted the trajectory of nations. In many places, great movements began not in parliaments or armies, but with small groups who persisted in prayer. Even in personal life, I have revealed this power. Families on the verge of breaking apart have been restored because one person prayed without ceasing. Hospitals have witnessed the unexplainable when patients recovered beyond the predictions of medicine because someone interceded. Young people once bound by addiction have been set free not by social programs but by the tearful prayers of parents. These are not tales from ancient texts. They are unfolding in everyday life even now. This shows that prayer does not merely change personal emotions, it changes reality itself. It does not remain locked in a secret room, but it reaches into the heavens, and from there it flows back to alter the course of human history. When you kneel, you may feel small, but in the spiritual realm, heaven takes note, and the outcome can affect generations. My child, I tell you this, such power has never been lost. If prayer once opened the Red Sea, stopped the rain, and shook prison walls, then today it can still move nations, heal societies, and turn families around. The question is not whether the power remains, but whether you believe and enter into that partnership. The enemy fears this truth, which is why it whispers that prayer is useless. It wants you to give up after a few unanswered attempts. But I call you to persevere, because persevering prayer is the weapon that reshapes the flow of history. Do not limit your vision, my child. When you pray, do not think only of yourself. Think of your family, your city, your nation. Believe that prayer can open doors, stop disasters, calm wars, and draw entire peoples back to me. Nothing is too great to bring before me, and nothing is too small for me to care about. Every time you lift your voice, you are taking part in shaping the future. Therefore, my child, pray with a new understanding. Do not see it as a ritual. See it as an act of writing history itself. For from the beginning until now, every true transformation, from personal lives to national destinies, has always begun with knees bent in prayer. My child, I know there are seasons in your spiritual journey where you feel as though you are walking through a barren desert. You pray, and it seems no answer comes. You open the scriptures and the words feel lifeless. You seek me but encounter only silence. In those seasons, it is easy to believe I have withdrawn, that your faith has failed, that all your efforts are in vain. But I want you to understand it is precisely in those dry seasons that I am doing the deepest, most hidden work in your soul. Look at nature. There are seeds sown into the ground that do not sprout immediately before the eyes of anyone. A farmer may check day after day, yet for many weeks all that can be seen is dry, cracked soil. However, beneath the surface, an essential process is taking place. The seed splits, open roots, push downward, and a living system begins to establish itself. To those who only look at the surface, it may appear that nothing is happening. Yet in truth, this hidden stage determines the strength and endurance of the plant later on. Your spiritual dry season is much the same. When you see no miracles, feel no excitement, and hear no resounding voice, it is in those very moments that I am laying the foundation, driving the roots of your faith deeper, so that in the storm you may stand firm. My child, your struggle is that you have grown accustomed to measuring my presence by your feelings. When your heart overflows, when your tears fall freely in worship, you say, "The Lord is near." But when your soul feels barren, when prayer is nothing more than weary, whispers you doubt, "Is the Lord still here?" I want you to learn a deeper lesson. My presence does not depend on your emotions. Feelings shift, but I do not change. A dry season does not mean I am absent. It simply means I want you to learn to trust me beyond what you feel. Remember the people of Israel in the wilderness. For 40 years they journeyed, and on many days there were no spectacular miracles except manna falling daily, a gift so repetitive they began to despise it. Yet it was in those very monotonous days that I trained them to rely on me for daily bread, to obey my law, and to shape their identity as a holy nation. If I had only revealed glory through sensational events, they would have remained a crowd chasing wonders rather than a people carrying a mission. So it is with you, my child. If your faith rests only on excitement, it will be fragile. The dry season is the school where you learn to live by me even when your emotions do not cooperate. My child, I do not work according to the schedule you expect. Sometimes you ask for a sign, yet I remain silent. It is not abandonment, but an invitation to maturity. A small child needs to be carried constantly by its parents, comforted without ceasing. But when it grows, it must learn to walk on its own, even when the hand is no longer holding tight. So it is with you. If I always answered immediately, you would never learn patience. If miracles were constant, you would never learn the value of faithfulness in the ordinary. My silence is a test. Are you seeking me for who I am, or only for instant results? The dry season is also the time I purify your motives. When there is no thrill, you must face the question, will I still pray? Will I still worship? Will I still obey? If you stop, it means you were only seeking me for the feelings. But if you endure, it proves that your love and faith are truly for me, not for the benefits attached. This is the priceless refining that only the dry season can accomplish. Do not fear, my child, when you see no miracles. Rivers may rush mightily, but it is the underground streams that sustain the trees with endurance. Public miracles may impress, but it is the hidden work within your heart that preserves faith for the long road. I often choose to work silently to build in you something no one can steal. When storms come, emotions may waver, but faith rooted in the dry season will hold you steady. Remember, my child, even my only son, Jesus, endured a dry season in the Garden of Gethsemane. He prayed in solitude until his sweat became like drops of blood. Heaven was silent, yet in that silence he said, "His will, not my will, but yours be done." Without that season there would have been no cross and no redemption. Thus the dry season is not failure, but preparation for great purpose. So, my child, when you walk through days without signs, do not think everything has stopped. In reality, that is the stage where I am working most deeply within you. Just as a builder lays the foundation beneath the ground, the most crucial part of a house is hidden, unseen by all. If the foundation is weak, every wall will collapse. I build the foundation of your faith in those unnoticed days, without applause, without lights, without an audience, so that when you are lifted to a higher place, you will have the strength to bear the weight without falling. My child, be patient. Do not run from the season of dryness, and do not try to escape it with false pleasures or cheap substitutes. Let it do its work. Pray even when the words feel dry. Read the scriptures even when your mind is distracted. Worship even when you feel nothing. For every act of faithfulness in the dry season is a brick that builds a foundation which cannot be shaken. And my child, believe that the dry season will not last forever. Just as winter eventually yields to spring, the time of renewal and miracle will come. But when it comes, you will not be the same. You will be stronger, deeper, more mature. And when you look back, you will realize that it was in the dry season that I was doing my most important work. My child, I know that moments of silence are the hardest in the life of faith. When you cry out and hear no reply, you easily think I have abandoned you. When you search for a sign but the heavens remain still, you are tempted to doubt. But I say to you, silence is not absence. I am still there, but I am working in another way, one that you will only recognize later. Silence is not a meaningless void. It is the environment where your faith grows to maturity. Remember the training of any soldier. During drills, the officer sometimes steps away, leaving the soldier to stand guard and to respond under pressure. Not because he has been forsaken, but so he can learn to use his skills, build confidence, and grow in strength. If the officer stood by his side at every moment, the soldier would never mature. In the same way, I sometimes remain silent, not to abandon you, but to teach you how to trust, to walk, to stand firm without immediate proof. True faith is not grown when every prayer is answered. It is forged in silence when you choose to believe, though you see nothing. My child, if every prayer were answered at once, if every need were supplied instantly, then your faith would be like a muscle, never exercised. It would remain weak, fragile, and dependent on circumstances. But when I remain silent, you are forced to cling to what I have already spoken. You must live by promise, not by feeling. And it is in that place that your faith is stretched, strengthened, and made enduring. Silence is the training ground of faith. Look back to Abraham. I promised him descendants as numerous as the stars, yet for many years there was no sign at all. The heavens were silent. The promise seemed distant, but it was in that silence that Abraham's faith was refined. Had he received a son the very next year, he might have thought it was fortune. But when he had to wait until old age, he learned that my promise does not depend on human strength. The long silence made his faith a model for generations to come. My child, silence is also a test of motives. When you pray and see no answer, it reveals your heart. Do you seek me for who I am, or only for what I can do? If your desire is only for miracles, you will give up when the heavens are quiet. But if your love for me is genuine, you will keep seeking, keep trusting, even without signs. That perseverance proves the true worth of your faith. Like gold in the fire, silence burns away false desires and leaves only what is pure. You must also understand that silence does not mean I am inactive. It is like a seed beneath the soil. The farmer sees nothing but roots are forming. It is like a child in the womb. Outsiders hear no sound, yet life is growing each day. My silence is the same. You may not see, but my work is advancing. I am touching hidden places you cannot perceive, shaping attitudes, correcting the heart, preparing the ground. And when the time is right, the fruit will appear, and you will understand that through the silence, I never stopped working. My child, do not fear the silence. It is not proof of rejection, but an invitation to step into a new level of maturity. If you endure in silence, you will learn to recognize the gentle whisper rather than waiting only for the thunder. You will discern my presence in stillness rather than only in dramatic miracles. And that sensitivity will anchor you when the real storms arrive. I want you to change your perspective. Do not ask, why is God not answering? Instead ask, what is God teaching me through this silence? When you shift your question, silence no longer feels like a pit of despair, but like a classroom. It teaches you patience. It teaches you faithfulness. It teaches you to trust without evidence. It transforms you from a follower of feelings into one who stands upon my promises. My child, remember this. My silence never means my absence. Even when you hear nothing, I am closer than you think. Like a father watching his child take their first steps, not rushing in at the first stumble, yet always near, ready to catch them before they fall. You may not feel my hand, but I am watching every step. Silence is not abandonment. It is trust. Trust that you can keep walking by faith. Therefore, my child, when you pass through a season of silence, do not lose heart. Pray even when the heavens feel quiet. Be faithful even when no results appear. Keep walking even when the path is dark. For it is in the silence that your faith is refined and your identity is forged. One day you will look back and realize without the season of silence, you would never have grown into who you are today. I want you to understand this. No season of dryness or silence in your spiritual life is meaningless. You may see them as wasted, wandering times, but in truth, that is when I am laying foundations deep beneath the surface where your eyes cannot see. Every house has both what is seen and what is hidden. People may praise the beauty above ground, but the true value lies in the foundation. If the foundation is weak, the house, no matter how splendid, will collapse when the ground shakes. In the same way, your faith cannot rest on fleeting emotions or temporary miracles. It must stand on something deeper and unshakable. And it is in the seasons of dryness and silence that I lay that foundation for you. Consider a great tree. To others, its branches and leaves are its glory, yet its true strength lies in its roots. The deeper the roots grow, the stronger the tree stands against storms. But roots do not drive deep in easy sunshine. They press downward in seasons of drought, when the tree must seek water far below. So it is with your spiritual dryness. When the surface no longer satisfies, when feelings no longer sustain, you are driven to dig deeper into my word, to cling to my promises, to find living water in me rather than in circumstances. In those very moments, the roots of your faith are pressing down, forming a foundation that no storm can uproot. My child, you may believe that success and miracles are the marks of strong faith. But I tell you the truth, faith's strength is not measured by how often you witness wonders, but by how steadfast you remain when nothing is seen. It was the faith of Daniel in the lion's den, when no escape was visible, yet he remained faithful. It was the faith of his 3 friends in the fiery furnace when they declared, "Even if he does not deliver us, we will not bow to other gods." It is in those moments of silence and apparent hopelessness that an unshakable foundation is built. Many love the stage lights where faith is displayed, in large gatherings where voices shout and miracles are witnessed. But my child, I tell you, this true faith is formed in the secret place when it is just you and me, when you pray into silence, when you remain faithful though unseen. That is where the foundation is laid. And once that foundation is set, you can step out into the world and face any shaking without collapsing. Think, my child, of one who builds a bridge. They do not begin with the graceful arch or the smooth roadway. They begin by driving pillars deep into the earth, sometimes for years, with no visible progress. Passers-by may wonder, when will it be finished? Why is it so slow? But once the bridge is complete, it stands strong for decades, bearing storms and weight without faltering. The slowness was the strength. So it is with you. The season of dryness is when I am driving the pillars deep into your life. Others may see nothing. You may grow impatient, but when the storms come, you will give thanks for the foundation prepared in silence. The danger, my child, is when you bypass this process, when you long only for quick results. A house built in haste may look fine, but it will crumble in an earthquake. A faith untested may impress for a moment, but it will falter when crisis comes. I love you too much to let you build on fragile ground, and so I allow silence and dryness, so that each stone may be set, each layer of soil pressed firm. No one applauds the foundation, but it determines everything. My child, you must see that it is in those seasons which seem useless that I am teaching you lessons no other circumstance could teach. You learn to discern what is true and what is false. You learn patience. You learn to walk not by feelings, but by my word. Each of these lessons is like cement and steel fortifying the foundation beneath you. Once that foundation is in place, you will no longer be easily swayed by public opinion, broken by failure, or puffed up by success. You will know how to stand, even when the earth shakes. I want you to understand tremors will come. No one escapes them. Cities will change, societies will be unsettled, individuals will face loss. The question is not whether shaking will come, but what foundation you stand upon. If you lean only on achievements, they will crumble. If you lean on relationships, they may change. If you lean on emotions, they will shift from day to day. But if you lean on the foundation I have built in seasons of dryness and silence, you will remain steadfast. Not because you are strong, but because that foundation cannot be moved. Remember this, my child, seasons of dryness and silence are not empty, voids where you are lost, but construction sites where I am quietly building. When you feel empty, I am digging deeper. When you feel silence, I am laying the base. When you feel abandoned, I am shielding you from false ground in order to build a true one. One day, when everything around you shakes, you will see the difference clearly. While many collapse because they have no foundation, you will stand. And then you will understand every long day of silence and barrenness was not in vain. My child, I want you to open your eyes wider than your personal life. The shaking is not only within the soul of an individual, it is spreading, reaching communities, nations, and the world. The upheavals you see, wars, pandemics, economic crises, social unrest, environmental decline, are not random events. They are signs of a deeper convulsion, where I am shaking what has rotted to reveal what truly endures. Human beings build their foundations on many things that appear secure: political systems, the global economy, science and technology, or cultural structures. But my child, whenever crises strike those foundations, show their fragility. An invisible virus can paralyze nations. A financial collapse can destabilize global markets. A regional conflict can disturb world peace. These are not merely temporary disruptions. They are reminders that what is built on sand will fall. The shaking is not only to warn individuals, but to awaken entire societies that nothing on this earth is unshakable except me. I do not create chaos, my child, but I permit these upheavals so that truth may be exposed. When societies run smoothly, people are quick to assume they do not need me. They worship progress, trust in intellect, and rely on the systems of their own making. But when the shaking comes, those idols reveal their powerlessness. It is precisely in that collapse that I call my people back, summoning communities and nations to recognize what the true foundation island. Look back at history. Every generation has had its shaking. Mighty Egypt fell after the plagues. Proud Jerusalem was destroyed when my people abandoned me for idols. Empires that seemed eternal all passed away. Yet in those very tremors, I raised up new people and new communities. When an empire collapsed, a people were delivered. When a city was destroyed, a promise was birthed. Shaking does not only mean destruction, it also means transition. It clears away the old to make way for the new. So it is today, my child. The shaking now is on a global scale. I am moving not only in your family, but in nations and across the earth. You see injustice multiplying truth, distorted hearts growing cold, and moral values overturned. This is not merely a social problem, it is a sign of testing. Every system not built on my foundation will be tried by fire. What is true will stand, what is false will fall. And in this process, I am calling forth a generation who knows how to stand in the light to become witnesses in the midst of the night. My child, do not look at upheavals only through the lens of politics or economics. Behind every event lies a spiritual movement. When a nation sinks into corruption and violence, it is not merely a systemic flaw, it is the symptom of a spiritual disease. When families collapse in great numbers, it is not simply a social issue, it is a sign that people have forgotten the source of true love. When the world struggles for power, it is not just international strategy, it is a battle between light and darkness. Every shaking in society and in nations reflects a deeper spiritual conflict. Yet, my child, I do not allow shaking merely to frighten you. I permit it in order to prepare my people. Like gold in the fire, only through the heat of melting does what is pure become revealed. Any community that seeks me in the midst of shaking will find the strength to stand firm and even to shine as a light for its nation. But the community that continues to build on sand, power, wealth, pride, will see its works vanish. This is the hour for individuals, congregations, and nations to ask themselves, upon what foundation are we standing? My child, I call you to broaden your vision. Do not think of faith as only a private matter. Personal faith is certainly vital, but it must bear fruit in community. You are the light not to be hidden under a basket, but to illuminate the house, the city, and the nation. When you remain steadfast during the shaking, your life becomes a testimony to others that there is a foundation that cannot be moved. From one person I can impact a family. From one family I can touch a community. From one community I can stir an entire nation. My child, the shaking is real and it is happening. But I also declare this, it is not the end. It is purification, the peeling away of false layers. Do not panic when society grows unstable. Do not lose heart when the world is in turmoil. Remember that I am the one who holds history in my hands. I have decreed that whatever is built on me will endure. And in this very season of chaos, I am seeking those who will not fear, but who will take their place, becoming living evidence that the light still shines, that truth still remains, that hope still lives. I want you to understand the true purpose of global shaking. It is not simply to make the world chaotic, but to expose truth and strip away every falsehood upon which humanity has relied. When all seems stable, idols can be dressed in splendor, systems can appear unshakable, and temporary values can be praised as ultimate. But when the earth begins to quake, all is revealed for what it really is. Shaking is the test that uncovers, separating the true from the false, leaving only what is founded on me to remain. Look at the idols of this age. They are not carved of wood or stone as in ancient times, but they are the things people today admire and give their full trust to: money, power, fame, technology, knowledge. As long as circumstances are favorable, these seem to provide stability. People accumulate wealth to feel secure, build brands to affirm their worth, and trust that scientific progress can solve every problem. But then a crisis strikes, economies collapse, markets tremble, technology falters before disease, and fame offers no help when illness steals away breath. At that moment the mask falls and idols stand revealed as rotting pillars. So it is also with the systems of mankind. They are built to maintain order: politics, law, economics, education. Yet shaking exposes the cracks. When power is concentrated, it easily becomes a tool of oppression. When economies are built on greed, they collapse in chains of failure. When education is divorced from truth, it produces generations clever but lacking wisdom. And when crisis comes, these systems cannot keep humanity from fear and chaos. Shaking does not only unsettle material foundations, it uncovers the moral and spiritual disease that society has long tried to conceal. My child, I am also exposing the fleeting values that humanity exalts. People glorify quick success, personal happiness at any cost, convenience over long-term responsibility. Such values may sound attractive in times of peace, but when the shaking comes, they cannot preserve the soul. Those who compromise for short-term gain will find themselves empty-handed. Those who chase after pleasure will discover emptiness once the fleeting thrill fades. Those who build their lives upon the approval of others will collapse when public opinion turns against them. Shaking does not negotiate with shallow values. It sweeps them away to reveal what is true. Remember, my child, I do not expose to shame, but to heal. Just as a surgeon cuts open the surface to remove a hidden tumor, so shaking lays bare the deeper issue. If I were to leave idols undisturbed, humanity would slowly die in illusion. But when I stir, when I reveal, I open the door for people to return to an unshakable foundation. What is true becomes clearer, and what is false crumbles of itself. Look at the reality of today's world. A global pandemic can halt the greatest of plans. A market crash can strip millions of their livelihood. A political upheaval can overturn the world order. These are not merely social events. They are a test for every individual. Those who build upon false securities will be driven to despair. Those who place their trust in me will remain standing. Shaking exposes who truly belongs to me and who merely clings to religious appearances or shallow habits. My child, I say to you, global shaking is not the end but a cleansing. It is like fire that burns away straw but leaves pure gold. It is like a storm that strips away rotting shelters but leaves the solid foundation intact. If you see falsehood collapsing, do not be afraid. That is proof that I still reign. In truth, the greatest danger is not the shaking itself, but when humanity continues living in delusion without ever being tested. This is the hour, my child, for you to examine yourself. Are there idols within your heart yet to be exposed? Are you building on any fragile system thinking it will endure? Are you placing your worth in things that are passing away? Global shaking is a warning to the whole world, but also a personal call to you: build your life on what is real. For what is true will stand and what is false will fall. And I desire you to belong to that which cannot be shaken. My child, I tell you truly, amid the tremors shaking the earth, I am not merely watching outward chaos. My eyes search for the remnant, the faithful ones, the hearts that will not bow to idols, that will not submit to fear, that will not compromise with deception. Global shaking does not only uncover the weakness of human systems, it also reveals who truly belongs to me. While many chase comfort, I am calling forth a people who will choose me, choose truth, choose holiness, even when the cost is high. Remember the days of Elijah. The whole nation bowed before Baal, and he thought he was the only one left. But I declared that 7,000 had not bent their knees to the idol. They were the remnant, proof that true faith can never be erased. So it is today, my child. In a world drowning in compromise, there remain those who keep their hearts pure. They may not be famous, loud, or celebrated by media, but I know each of them, and I am preparing them to be pillars in the new season. My child, the remnant is never the majority. Most will choose the wide road, comfortable, low risk, filled with immediate rewards, but the remnant are those willing to walk the narrow path, choosing truth even in isolation. They do not fear losing reputation, profit, or acceptance. They fear only one thing: losing my presence. That is the mark of my true people. Shaking comes to separate wheat from chaff, to reveal the remnant so no one can confuse appearance with reality. I want you to know, my child, that the remnant is not formed by easy circumstances, but by fire. When the world demands compromise, they remain steadfast. When the majority stays silent, they dare to speak. When systems collapse, they cling to my word. They are not flawless, but they are genuine. They are not immune to fear, but they let faith rise above fear. They are not strong in the world's eyes, but they are strong because they know the one in whom they believe. And remember, my child, the remnant is not an elite class. I do not choose them for special talent or high position. I choose them for their hearts. A mother praying quietly for her family, a young man keeping himself pure amid temptation, a small group worshiping faithfully under pressure. These are the remnant. I seek not the perfect, but the faithful. And I declare they will be the foundation of restoration after the shaking. My child, the distinction of the remnant lies in this: they choose me over comfort. The world promises ease and convenience, but they know that comfort cannot save the soul. They choose the hard road, for they know it is the road that leads to life. They choose truth over compromise, even though compromise is more easily accepted and applauded. Yet truth, though demanding, is the only path that leads to lasting freedom. I declare that those who choose truth in the midst of shaking will become a light of guidance for many who are lost in confusion. My child, do not be afraid if you find yourself among the few. I do not need a crowd to change history. I only need hearts fully surrendered. One Noah in obedience was enough to save his family and open a new era. One Joseph in faithfulness was enough to save an entire nation during famine. One small group of disciples in loyalty was enough to ignite a church that spread across the world. The remnant may appear insignificant in the eyes of men, but in my hands they are enough to shake a whole generation. My child, what I seek from you is a clear choice. Do not think you can hold on to truth while clinging to compromise. Do not think you can pursue comfort while walking after me. The shaking will sweep away every half-hearted way. Only those who truly stand upon the rock will remain. Therefore I call you today, be decisive. Choose me. Stand on the side of truth, even if it means standing alone. And I promise you this, my child, the remnant will never be forgotten. I know each one by name, and I keep them through the storms. They may be mocked by the world, but they are honored in heaven. They may not receive recognition from the masses, but they bear my witness. And when the shaking passes, it is they who will lay the foundation for a new season, one in which righteousness, truth, and light are revealed clearly. My child, I tell you that this moment is not simply for you to preserve faith for yourself. This is the hour when I am calling an entire generation to rise to become living witnesses in the midst of a society overturned by darkness, deception, and fear. Personal faith has value, but if it ends only in holding tight for yourself, it will not make a difference in a groaning world. I am not calling you merely to survive. I am calling you to shine. Not to hide for safety, but to step forward and demonstrate that there is still a solid foundation when everything else shakes. My child, this world does not need more theories. It needs people who live genuinely. When society drowns in doubt, it needs to see those who walk with unshakable trust. When society is disordered by lies, it needs to see those who dare to speak and live in truth. When society is consumed by selfishness, it needs to see those who sacrifice for love. A living witness is not one with eloquent sermons, but one whose life becomes proof that I am still here, that the light still shines, that hope still endures. My child, I do not say this will be easy. To rise in a turbulent society requires courage. You will face opposition, misunderstanding, even rejection. But remember, a true witness is not one praised by all, but one willing to pay the price so that truth may be revealed. Like the first disciples, they did not keep their faith hidden in a locked room, but stepped into the streets proclaiming openly and living differently. And it was precisely that difference that shook the Roman Empire. My child, I am calling forth such a generation today. A generation that does not merely say they believe, but lives out that belief in the midst of real pressures in schools, workplaces, politics, business, and families. The world does not need empty slogans. It needs true evidence. The righteous person in the midst of a corrupt system. The one who stays pure in a society of indulgence. The one who chooses forgiveness in a culture of revenge. These are the torches of light, the living witnesses I am searching for. You may think you are too small to make a difference. But my child, a witness is not one who changes the world by their own strength. A witness is one who allows me to work through them. The light of a single candle can drive back darkness in a room. The faithfulness of one person can inspire an entire community. The courage of a small group can alter the course of a nation. History has proven again and again, all it takes is one generation willing to rise, and the future of the world can be changed. My child, to become a living witness, you do not need to be perfect. You only need to be willing. I am not searching for flawless people. I am searching for surrendered hearts. When you are weak, my strength will be revealed. When you are in need, my provision will be seen. When you step out in obedience, I will accomplish what is beyond your ability. A witness is not one who displays their own greatness, but one who displays my faithfulness through a life yielded in surrender. My child, the world is hungry for living examples. Children need to see their parents walking in righteousness, not merely hear their teachings. Young people need to witness leaders living in honesty, not just reading slogans. Those who suffer need to encounter genuine love, not hollow promises. When you choose to live differently, you will not need to advertise it. Your very life becomes the testimony, and that testimony will stir the hearts of those around you more powerfully than any sermon. My child, I am shaking this generation not to terrify them, but to awaken them. The world is shrouded in darkness, yet the darker the night, the brighter the light shines. This is not the time for faith to retreat, but the time for faith to step forward. This is not the hour to merely preserve yourself, but to become a witness. And I say to you, if you rise up, you will not rise alone. I go before you, I am with you, and I will turn your faithfulness into a flame that spreads. My child, remember, a living witness is not merely an observer, but a participant. You will not only see my works, but you will become an instrument through which I work. You will not only hear about what I am doing, you will be part of it. And in the final day, when you look back, you will know that your life was not wasted, because it became evidence for an entire generation that God is still faithful, still powerful, still present with his people in every upheaval. My child, I want you to know this truth. A living witness cannot blend into the crowd. Such a person must be willing to pay the cost, to live differently, for it is that very difference that brings real impact. The world is not transformed by those who go with the flow, but by those who dare to swim against the current. If you would be my witness, you cannot merely live like everyone else with a touch of religion added. You must be willing to stand apart, to speak what others avoid, to live out what others mock. That is the price. My child, the price is never comfortable. It may cost you ease, the approval of the majority, even your safety. Those who live differently are often branded rigid, difficult, or outdated. But remember, I have not called you to win the crowd's applause. I have called you to remain faithful to truth. If the whole world abandons principle, you must be the one who holds it. If society bows to idols, you must be the one who refuses. That very steadfastness, though painful, proves that you truly belong to me. Remember Noah. He built the ark on dry ground while the world laughed. He lived differently for many years with no visible sign to confirm he was right. Yet when the flood came, it was his difference that saved his family and opened a new beginning for humankind. Had Noah chosen to live like the majority, he would have perished with them. His difference was salvation. My child, you are called to live likewise, not chasing trends, not bowing to ridicule, but holding fast to truth, even when misunderstood. My child, being different is not shown merely in words, but in how you live. When the world chooses deceit for gain, you walk in integrity, though it costs you. When the world clings to greed, you practice generosity. When the world clings to hatred, you extend forgiveness. When the world pursues pleasure, you pursue purity. Such choices may set you apart, but they make you a lamp shining in the night. Others may mock, but deep inside they know you are living for something enduring. My child, do not think that living differently is useless. It is precisely difference that brings real transformation. When one person lives righteously in a corrupt environment, the entire system is forced to take notice. When one youth keeps purity in a permissive culture, that one becomes a model for many friends. When one family remains faithful in unstable times, they plant hope in their community. Power does not come from blending in with the crowd, but from daring to be different for the sake of truth. My child, daring to live differently means daring to pay the price. You may lose approval, but you gain my witness. You may lose position, but you stand secure in my plan. You may lose comfort, but you receive eternal reward. I do not promise you the honor of the world, but I promise you the recognition of heaven. And I tell you the truth, the reward from me far outweighs any price you must pay. This world is always trying to assimilate you. It whispers, everyone else does it, why should you be different? It suggests, just compromise a little, no one will ever know. But my child, even a small compromise is enough to open the door to full surrender. A little compromise eventually leads to an empty life. Do not forget, faith cannot coexist with compromise. A true witness is not one who tries to please the world while still claiming to follow me. A true witness is one who chooses me, even when that choice means loss. My child, look into the history of the church. In times when the world was shaken, it was those who dared to be different that brought transformation. The early believers refused to worship the emperor, even though it meant being thrown into the arena. The reformers refused to compromise with false doctrines, though it cost them imprisonment and threatened their lives. The courageous ones of the last century refused to remain silent in the face of injustice, even though it brought exclusion and persecution. If they had sought comfort, the world would never have been changed. But they chose to be different, and their difference wrote history. My child, now it is this generation's turn. I have not called you merely to remain safe, but to stand as a witness in the midst of turmoil. I have not called you to live like the majority, but to become a sign of a kingdom that cannot be shaken. You must decide, will you go along with the flow, or will you stand apart? Will you choose comfort, or will you choose me? I declare to you, only those who dare to be different will truly make an impact. Therefore, my child, do not fear the cost. The price you pay today is the seed for tomorrow's harvest. The loneliness you bear now is proof that you stand with me. The loss you endure today will become an eternal reward. When you choose to be different for my sake, your life will not only be saved, but will also influence the world around you. And in the last day, when all falsehood fades away, that very difference will resound as a testimony that you belong to me. Truly, I tell you, I do not call living witnesses simply to endure and keep their faith hidden in private. I call them to become instruments in my hand, to influence their generation, to sow hope in the midst of despair, and to open the way for restoration. Every generation needs those who rise as torches, and it is through them that I shape the course of entire nations. A faithful witness does not only transform their own family, but can ignite the spark of a movement. Remember Joseph in Egypt. He did not keep faith only for himself in the prison cell, but allowed me to use him as an instrument to save an entire nation and neighboring peoples. The faithfulness of one man brought food for millions and preserved the lineage of the promise. My child, today's living witnesses are also called to become such instruments in the midst of global crises. They are those I appoint to preserve, to sustain, and to pave the way for a season of restoration. Look also at Daniel. In the royal court of Babylon, full of compromise and power, he chose to live differently. He prayed daily, kept himself pure, and refused to bow before idols. As a result, he became the channel through which I revealed wisdom, influencing kings and enabling my people to hold fast to their faith, even in exile. One witness sowed hope that even when the nation lay in ruins, I was still present, still sovereign, still at work. My child, today's generation also needs new Daniels and Josephs, those who not only keep their faith in secret, but dare to let it shine publicly in classrooms, in workplaces, and in society. When they remain faithful, I use them to sow seeds of hope. A faithful teacher plants hope into the minds of children. An honest worker plants hope that righteousness still exists in a corrupt world. A just entrepreneur plants hope that wealth need not be tied to corruption. I use them as instruments, and through them a generation is reshaped. My child, a living witness is not merely one who protests against what is wrong, but one who demonstrates what is right. Society is filled with voices of criticism, yet it lacks true examples to follow. When a witness lives righteously, their very presence becomes proof that the light is real. This sparks hope in those who are discouraged. When someone sees you forgive instead of seeking revenge, they believe that true love exists. When someone sees you remain honest instead of deceiving, they believe that righteousness still endures. When someone sees you persevere in prayer, instead of giving up, they believe that faith still has a place. Hope does not come from theory, but from the life of a witness. My child, I also use living witnesses to pave the way for restoration. Every time society is shaken, I raise up faithful men and women to lay the foundation for a new season. When Ezra and Nehemiah stood after the exile, the people recovered their identity and rebuilt the holy city. When the early church stood firm amidst persecution, the message of the resurrection spread across the world. When faithful witnesses held to the truth during dark times, revival ignited. My child, I tell you the truth. The restoration of this generation will not come through human strategy, but through witnesses who surrender their entire lives to me. My child, understand clearly, a witness is not called to hide away, but to become a seed. A seed is not meant to be kept in storage, but must be sown into the ground, decay, and then sprout into fruit. Likewise, a witness must accept the cost, so that their life becomes an instrument to sow new life into the generation. The death of a seed is not its end, but the beginning of the harvest. The price you pay is never in vain. It clears the way for life to be revealed in others. My child, never underestimate the impact of a faithful witness. The world may disregard it, but heaven records it. You may think you are only a small voice, yet in my hands that voice can awaken an entire generation. You may think your perseverance goes unnoticed, but there are people quietly watching you. And when the shaking passes, it will be your life that stands as evidence to them that there is a firm path, a true hope. My child, I am seeking those who are willing to become such instruments. Perfection is not required, only faithfulness. Prominence is not required, only truthfulness. I will use them to sow hope amidst ruins, to prepare the way for restoration when the world believes all is lost. This is the time I am calling you, calling this generation. Rise up, yield yourself, and let me use your life as a lamp that shines, as a seed that is planted, as a vessel that opens the way to a new season. I declare to you that this generation is not only called to stand firm in the storm, but to be sent out with a mission that will shape the future. To stand firm is necessary, but it is not enough. I do not want you only to defend yourself, keeping from being swept away. I want you to advance, to open the way, to sow seeds, and to build what will remain for the generations to come. This is a decisive moment, not only for your personal life, but for your lineage and the future of your nation. My child, look honestly at the present reality. Today's world is laying the foundation for the next generation. The values accepted now will become the inheritance of tomorrow. The compromises of today will become the chains for children tomorrow. In contrast, today's faithfulness will become a solid foundation for many generations. That is why the calling I place on this generation is not merely defensive, but strategic for the future. I am seeking those who do not only care for present safety, but who sow seeds that will bear fruit across lifetimes. Remember Abraham. The promise I gave him did not end with him, but stretched through the generations. Through you all nations on earth will be blessed. The faith of one man opened the door for multitudes. My child, this generation carries the same weight of responsibility. You do not live for yourself alone. Every decision you make, every principle you hold, every value you pass on is a seed sown into the future. Do not take it lightly. What you do today can become either the pathway or the chains for the generations to come. My child, I do not call this generation merely to exist. I call them to become shapers. In the midst of a world losing its direction, I want you to be the compass. When society wanders in darkness, I want you to be the light that guides. When foundations are shaken, I want you to be the living stone that rebuilds. The mission is not only to stand for yourself, but to leave behind a righteous legacy, so that when you are gone, the next generation can continue walking on a firm foundation. My child, the future does not become brighter on its own. It is shaped by those who know how to look beyond the present. The decisions of today, no matter how small, will become the roots of tomorrow. A prayer of faithfulness today can protect a city in the future. An act of righteousness today can open the way for justice to spread across decades. A heart of worship today can ignite revival for generations to come. The future is contained in the seeds sown today. My child, I know there are those who say, "Let the next generation take care of themselves. Let the children find their own way." But I declare that responsibility cannot be ignored. Today's generation is laying the foundation for tomorrow's, whether they are aware of it or not. If you choose indifference, you are sowing seeds too, but they are seeds of chaos. If you choose compromise, you are sowing seeds too, but they are seeds of bondage. Only when you choose faithfulness do you sow the seeds of freedom and blessing. My child, I call this generation to step into their mission, not a mission of fear, but of faith, not a mission of retreat, but of pioneering, not a mission of clinging tightly, but of sowing generously. Do not think only of how you will live in the years ahead. Think of how the next generation will live because of your faithfulness today. This is both responsibility and privilege, to become the generation that paves the way, the generation that plants seeds for a great harvest. My child, I tell you the truth, the world will continue to shake. Yet in that very shaking, I will raise up people who know how to live with a vision beyond the present. They will not only keep themselves standing firm, but will also sow hope for the future. They will not only block the tide of compromise, but will also release streams of blessing. They will not only survive the storm, but will also build strongholds for the generations to come. This is the calling I place upon you, that your life may become the bridge from present to future, from crisis to restoration, from chaos to hope. My child, the calling I place upon this generation is not an easy road. It requires true courage. Courage to let go of the temporary for the sake of the eternal, courage to refuse false foundations in order to build upon the unshakable one. The world will entice you to choose immediate comfort, money, power, fame, convenience, but all of these are like sand beneath your feet. They may glitter for a moment, but when the storm comes, they vanish, leaving nothing but desolation. Only the foundation in me will stand when the earth is shaken. My child, turning away from the temporary will never be a decision celebrated by the majority. People will mock you, calling you foolish for refusing quick paths to wealth or fame. They will say you are wasting your life by choosing the hard and narrow way when the broad road lies open before you. But look at history, how many have chosen the ease of the moment and lost everything. One compromise can open the door to a lifetime of loss. One choice of comfort can place the future in chains. But in contrast, one faithful step today can open the way for generations to be blessed. My child, I know you long for safety and assurance. But remember this, there is no true safety apart from me. Money can vanish overnight. Power can be taken away with a single vote. Health can fade from the touch of a small illness. Nothing in this world is unshakable. You must choose either build upon what is temporary and prepare for collapse, or build upon me, the only foundation that cannot be moved. I have spoken, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. This is not a slogan, but the principle of a life that cannot be shaken. My child, to let go of the temporary also means to release the desire for human approval. As long as you live to please the crowd, you will easily slide into compromise. Building on a solid foundation means living to please me, even when the world does not understand, even when it costs you. Yet in that very cost, you will discover true freedom. You will no longer be bound by the opinions of others, but anchored in eternal truth. My child, to courageously choose lasting values is to be willing to live with a vision that stretches beyond the present. The farmer who sows seed does not see results immediately, yet he waits patiently, knowing harvest will come. The builder who lays his house upon the rock must dig deep, slower, harder, but when the storm rages, that house stands while others crumble. So it is with you. When you choose to forsake what is fleeting, you may seem slower than others, less noticeable, less successful by worldly standards. But when the shaking comes, you will possess what they do, not a true foundation. My child, do not think I call you to surrender only for you to lose. No, I call you to surrender so you may receive what is better. When you release what is false, your hands are free to receive what is real. When you walk away from the fragile, you can step upon what is firm. When you let go of the temporary, you enter the eternal. This is not a pointless sacrifice. It is the wisest exchange. You give up what will not last to gain what can never be shaken. My child, I speak truthfully. Only those who dare to forsake the temporary can carry a mission that impacts the future. For if their very lives are built upon what is fragile, how can they lead others to what is secure? A father who compromises cannot hand down steadfast faith to his children. A leader driven by status and profit cannot lead his people into righteousness. A generation that lives for convenience cannot open the way for the next to enter blessing. But the one who dares to forsake what is false for what is true will leave behind a lasting inheritance, one not swept away by time. My child, I call this generation, be courageous enough to be different. Let go of what is temporary, though it is easy, and choose what is lasting, though it demands much. Build upon me, the only foundation that cannot be shaken. One day when you look back, you will see every faithful decision, every refusal to compromise, every step upon the narrow path was not wasted. They have become living stones in a structure that endures forever, a structure that cannot be destroyed because it rests upon the solid foundation of me. I tell you the truth, Every decision you make today does not affect you alone, but weaves a legacy for generations to come. Each action, each choice, each value you hold becomes a seed planted in the ground. And that seed will bear fruit not only in your life, but in the lives of your children and those who follow after. Do not think the small steps are unimportant. All of them are shaping the foundation of the future. If the foundation you choose is secure, the next generation will stand upon safe ground. But if the foundation you choose is fragile, they will bear the cost of its collapse. My child, look to the promise I gave to Moses and to Israel. When they obeyed, I promised to bless not only them but their descendants for 1,000 generations. Yet when they compromised, the consequences extended for generations as well. This was not a random punishment, but the natural outcome of their choices. A generation that walks faithfully opens the door to blessing. A generation that lives carelessly opens the door to burden. You must understand, what you build today becomes tomorrow's inheritance. And that inheritance can either be a weight or a treasure. My child, inheritance is not measured by the material wealth you leave behind. Houses, money, or power can all vanish in a moment. But spiritual values, steadfast faith, and a foundation of righteousness, these are treasures eternal. A father may leave his children a great house, but if he does not impart faith, he leaves them a decaying foundation. In contrast, a mother who prays, remains faithful, and lives uprightly. Even if she leaves little material wealth, passes on a lasting inheritance for her lineage. Prayers offered, faithful choices made, and obedient steps taken are riches that can never be stolen. My child, remember Joshua. When he stood before the people, he declared, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." This was not merely a personal decision, it was a proclamation for his family and for his descendants. The decision of one man became an inheritance for many generations. On the other hand, the kings of Judah who turned their backs on me led the entire nation into ruin. One choice is enough to affect multitudes. Therefore, I say to you, the decision to build on a firm foundation today is the greatest gift you can give to the generations to come. My child, think of what the next generation is facing. They are growing up in a society of chaos, values overturned truth, distorted hearts hardened. If you do not rise to build a firm foundation now, they will have nothing to hold on to tomorrow. But if you choose faithfulness, you will leave them a strong footing. When they face storms, they will be able to say, "My parents, my forebears, stood firmly upon the word of God. I too will stand the same." Your faithfulness today becomes the guiding light for your children and your children's children. My child, I tell you, truly inheritance is not built in a single day, but through every consistent decision. Each time you choose truth over compromise, you place a stone in the foundation. Each time you forgive instead of holding a grudge, you raise a wall of protection for those after you. Each time you pray, though unseen by others, you are storing treasures in heaven for your descendants. And on the day when your journey ends, those stones will form a strong house where your children and grandchildren may find refuge in the storm. My child, do not be deceived by the short term. The world says, enjoy today. Do not worry about tomorrow. But I declare, what you sow today will determine tomorrow. If you sow seeds of indulgence, you will leave behind desolation. If you sow seeds of faithfulness, you will leave behind a harvest of blessing. This is the principle I established from the beginning of time. Whatever a man sows, that he will also reap, and the reaping is not for you alone, but for those who come after you. My child, I call you to build a spiritual inheritance. Do not think only of how much money you will leave, but of how much faith. Do not think only of what possessions you will pass down, but of the righteous foundation you will impart. Do not think only of your name, but of the living testimony you leave behind. A lineage nourished by faith will be stronger than any wealth. A generation that knows how to lean upon me will stand firm even when the world around them is shaken. My child, this is the privilege and responsibility of this generation to choose to build on a firm foundation, not only for themselves but also for the future. Do not let today's compromise become tomorrow's burden for your descendants. Let today's faithfulness become an inheritance for generations. And I promise you, when you build upon me, that work will not be destroyed. It will endure through every upheaval and become a refuge for many generations. That is the greatest reward you can leave behind, a lasting inheritance built upon an unshakable foundation. My child, I speak to you. What I am doing is not merely clearing away what is old or shaking what is false. Behind all the shaking, I am preparing a new covenant, a restoration greater than anything seen before. This is not a repetition of the past, but a fresh design, deeper, broader, and more enduring. As I once spoke through the prophet, the days are coming when I will make a new covenant. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts and minds. Jeremiah 31:33. That word still resounds, and it is being fulfilled in this generation. My child, this new covenant is not like the old one written on tablets of stone or bound by outward rituals. This new covenant is inscribed into the very soul. It does not merely command you what to do. It transforms you from within so that you desire to do it. This is not a new set of rules, but a new heart. It is not simply external commands, but the engraving of truth within the innermost being. This is the work of the Holy Spirit, who writes my law into the hearts of people so that they no longer live out of fear but out of love. My child, the restoration I am preparing is not simply a return to what once was. I do not rebuild fallen walls only for them to crumble again. I raise up what is new, what is solid, what cannot be destroyed. I do not merely patch cracks in society. I lay an entirely new foundation where righteousness and truth are the pillars. I do not only heal individuals, I restore communities. This is a restoration that is complete soul, family, nation, and even the world. My child, I know many are looking at the present picture and believe it all leads only to destruction. They see war, disease, violence, and injustice, and they conclude that hope has perished. But I declare to you, while the world sees collapse, I see opportunity to build anew. When people see only ashes, I see fertile ground for new seed. When society sees an ending, I see a beginning. Restoration does not happen apart from shaking. It is born from the shaking itself. My child, this new covenant is not limited to one nation. It is open to all peoples. I call not only one group, but all from every language, every nation, every culture. This is the plan I conceived from the dawn of creation, to unite all peoples under one king. I do not only gather my people from places of exile, I gather them from the four corners of the earth. And as they come together, they will become a new community, not built on political power or economic interest, but on righteousness and love. My child, this restoration does not come through human strength. No system, no organization can create it. It comes only by my power, but I will work through faithful ones. Living witnesses, the faithful remnant hearts that have been refined, they will be the living stones I use to build. I will pour out my spirit abundantly, giving them strength to overcome fear and to bring light into the darkness. They will not only witness the restoration, they will be the carriers of restoration. My child, the restoration I am preparing will reverse what the enemy has destroyed. Broken families will be mended, hardened hearts will be softened, divided nations will find reconciliation. Places once filled with hatred will overflow with love. Lands once desolate will bloom like gardens. I declare this: what the enemy intended for destruction, I will turn into the very foundation of glory. My child, to enter into this new covenant and restoration, you must be willing to let go of the old ways. You cannot step into a new season with an old heart, old habits, or old patterns of thought. The new covenant requires a fresh surrender. You cannot cling tightly to what is past and still hope to receive what is coming. You must allow me to remove what has decayed so that I may place in your hands what is new. Do not fear loss, for what I have prepared far surpasses what you will leave behind. Do not fear change, for it is within change that new life is born. My child, I am calling this generation to open their hearts to the new covenant. Let me write my law upon your heart instead of leaving it only in your mind. Let me build a new community rather than watching you cling to systems that have already collapsed. Let me restore not only your life but also your lineage and your people. And when this happens, the world will know that I am the Lord, the one who turns ashes into glory, desolation into gardens, and pain into hope. Truly I say to you, the new covenant I promised is not reserved for some distant day and a vague future. It has already begun here and now in the lives of those who surrender. Many believe they must wait for some grand event or appointed moment to see this covenant at work. But I declare, whenever one opens their heart, lays down their own will, and entrusts everything to me, the new covenant is made manifest. It is not merely an idea, but a living reality sprouting forth in the lives of those who yield. My child, I no longer inscribe my law upon tablets of stone, but upon tender hearts. When you allow me to transform you, you no longer live out of obligation, but out of love. You are no longer driven by fear, but by joy. You no longer keep the law to be accepted, but because you know you are already accepted. This is the true mark of the new covenant, a transformation from within that no one can steal away, and this does not wait for tomorrow. It is happening within you, even now as you surrender today. My child, do not think that what I am doing is small or invisible. From one surrendered heart, an entire community can be transformed. A father who chooses to walk in righteousness can redirect the course of his whole family. A young person who chooses purity can inspire an entire generation of friends. A small group of faithful ones who pray can shake an entire city. This is how the new covenant works. It begins in what seems small, yet it expands into a power no one can stop. Like the mustard seed that grows into a great tree where the birds of the air find rest, the new covenant is sprouting in places no one expected. My child, many are waiting for miraculous signs to believe the new covenant is coming. But I tell you, look at the transformed hearts that is the evidence. When a sinner repents, the new covenant is revealed. When someone forgives the one who harmed them, the new covenant is at work. When a community chooses righteousness over deceit, the new covenant spreads. This is not some distant vision. It is a reality unfolding before your very eyes. Open them and see. In the midst of chaos, a new work is being built with living stones placed one by one into their place. My child, the new covenant does not wait until the world is perfect to be revealed. It shines forth even in imperfect settings. In the middle of crisis, true love is displayed. In the midst of injustice, righteousness stands out. In the face of despair, hope takes on its greatest worth. Therefore, do not think you must escape the storm before entering the covenant. Right in the midst of the storm, if you surrender, you will see my hand at work. It is within the darkest hour that the new covenant shines the brightest. My child, I want you to understand clearly the new covenant is not only about you, but also about those around you. When you surrender, the transformation in your life will become a testimony to many others. They will see and recognize that there is another foundation, another source of strength, another way of living. You become living evidence of the truth that I am at work. You are not saved for yourself alone, but to spread the light of the new covenant to an entire generation. My child, the new covenant is not a religious theory. It is my real presence in your life. When you pray and feel me near, that is the new covenant. When you read my word and it comes alive, that is the new covenant. When you walk through trials but are not swept away, that is the new covenant. It is not distant, not illusory, but profoundly practical, woven into every decision, every thought, every action of your daily life. My child, look around, I have already begun. There are small communities, seemingly unknown, yet becoming centers of change because they have surrendered to me sincerely. There are ordinary people, yet transformed to become instruments of hope for many. This is proof that the new covenant does not wait for a distant future, but is already at work today. I call you, do not merely wait, but take part. Do not stand outside as a spectator, but step in. My child, know this. Today's surrender is the seed of tomorrow's great restoration. When you give me your heart, I will use it to open the door for your descendants. When you choose faithfulness, I will multiply your influence to bless many. When you place yourself in my hands, you do not only change yourself, but you also take part in the global work I am doing. This is not an empty promise, but a reality I am already unveiling. My child, listen closely, the new covenant has already begun. It is present in every surrendered heart, in every faithful community, in every family built upon me. It is growing, even though the world does not yet perceive it. And one day, when the full picture is revealed, you will know that it all began with the small acts of surrender made today. Thank you for listening to this message today. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we may build a strong community of faith.